Thumbelina.
There once was a woman who liked flowers very much. The woman who didn't have any children went to the magic fairy of the forest.
Magic fairy, please help me have a child.
The magic fairy gave the woman a tiny seed with a white feather on it. Before she knew it, big pretty flower bud had bloomed in the flower pot where she had planted the seed. The moment the woman kissed the flower bud, it bloomed open, and a small pretty girl appeared in front of her.
How beautiful! Since you are the size of my thumb, I shall call you Thumbelina.
The woman decorated a tray with flowers and left it on top of a table.
Wow, I am Thumbelina, the happiest person in the whole world.
Thumbelina hummed a song while rowing through the flower petals. One day, however, an ugly toad came into the house.
What a pretty lady! I must have her marry my son.
The toad carried Thumbelina in his mouth and brought her to the pond. The next day, Thumbelina was surprised when she woke up on a lotus petal.
Help! Is anybody there? Help me! Thumbelina, we'll help you. Don't cry.
As the little fish came close and bit on the stem of the lotus, the stem snapped apart. When the lotus petal carrying Thumbelina was headed for a big river, a huge beetle flew over.
How pretty!
The beetle quickly snatched her and took her to the forest. But the beetle's friends made fun of Thumbelina. The beetle, who was disappointed, left the forest, leaving Thumbelina behind. Thumbelina, who could not stand the cold of the forest and hunger, went to Mrs. Mouse.
How cold you must be, come in.
Mrs. Mouse greeted Thumbelina with a warm welcome. One day, a black mole visited Mrs. Mouse.
Thumbelina, Mr. Mole is very rich.
Mr. Mole fell in love with Thumbelina at first sight. But Thumbelina did not like Mr. Mole at all. A few days later, Mr. Mole invited Thumbelina and Mrs. Mouse. "How is it? Have you ever seen such a grand house?" Mr. Mole was busy showing off everything. They were on their way home. Thumbelina found a swallow lying on the ground.
Oh, what to do? What a pity!
Thumbelina buried her face in the swallow's chest and wept. It was then, thump, thump, a light heartbeat came from the swallow's heart. Then spring came. The swallow that had regained its health flapped its wings with all its might.
Thumbelina, let's leave this place together.
If I go, Mrs. Mouse will be very sad.
The swallow, who hesitated for a moment, flew into the sunlight. At Mrs. Mouse's request, Thumbelina had accepted Mr. Mole's proposal and was crying.
Dear Mr. Sun, I will never meet you again because I must marry Mr. Mole.
Finally, it was the day of the wedding. The swallow flew towards Thumbelina, who was crying sorrowfully.
Thumbelina, won't you come to the warm south with me?
Yes, please take me with you.
The swallow arrived at a warm southern country and lightly dropped Thumbelina on a white flower. Inside the flower was the Prince of Flowerland. The prince proposed to Thumbelina. "Thumbelina, would you be my bride?" Thumbelina married the Prince of Flowerland and lived happily ever after.